shooting star. If you see Mac, stop his wandering and guide him back. I'll be waiting patiently by the Caribbean or Caribbean Sea.
ご機嫌いかがですか？渡辺Danです。Today on Alt Cinema, we're going to examine the dichotomy that exists between small-town life and show business, and what happens when the two inexorably meet. The first of the two movies we're going to look at is The Blue Angel. The Blue Angel is primarily remembered today as the film that introduced Marlene Dietrich and Joseph von Sternberg to the American public at large, and was also the last real American success of its star, Emil Jannings. The second film is The Pirate, a Judy Garland, Gene Kelly musical made at the height of the Hollywood Dream Factory era and directed by Vincente Minnelli. Let's start with The Blue Angel. The Blue Angel comes, as I said earlier, right from the very tail end of the Weimar Republic, and as such, you already see the beginning hints and the beginning fear of encroaching Nazism. The story involves a high school teacher by the name of Emanuel Rath, and he finds out that some of his boy students are going to a notorious nightclub called the Blue Angel and looking at a star named Lola Lola. He finds himself going there in order to castigate the place for being a bad influence, and in the process he falls in love with the cabaret singer. Now, of course, the cabaret singer was being played by Marlene Dietrich, and this, in her first performance, shows her intense carnality. Now, she wasn't the raving beauty she would become under Hollywood, where she would have her makeup very drastically changed, she would lose a little bit of weight, and she would become the kind of icon that only Hollywood could make at that period. But we see her as someone who is very loose, very different, very, very much a product of her time. Because remember, Weimar Germany was a time of intense freedom, a time of intense questioning of everything that had gone on that led to World War I, and a disillusionment with the way the government had handled Versailles and with some of the intense pressure that everyone felt under. The Weimar Republic, in fact, set the public at large, the German public at large, at a stage where they were receptive to Adolf Hitler. And in fact, The Blue Angel can be looked at in a way as a metaphor for all of that. Because look at the glittering life that Lola Lola proposes to the Professor Rath. He who has lived his whole life in an apartment surrounded by books, helping students, but never really expressing the sexual side that she so willingly puts out to him. After he experiences a fate worse than death by spending the night with her, he learns that the price for all of this, the price for him giving in, shall we say, to his human feelings, is that he becomes ostracized by his society. He is pretty much thrown out of the school. And what does he do? He goes to Lola and proposes to her. Now, one would think if this were an American movie, it would either be a comedy or it would be some kind of a questioning tale. But nothing prepares us for the downward degradation that he goes through. From a wedding scene where he's ebullient as he starts pretending like he's a chicken and cuckling with eggs being smashed on him and all of that. We see him rapidly descend as his money disappears and as he goes from being a very moralistic guy to someone who smokes cigarettes, to someone who is pretty much her slave. much as what would happen with Germany under the brilliant initial promise of Nazism, which would, of course, be turned into the destruction of the country. At the very end of the movie, we see Lola Lola still singing her song about falling in love again, and in this case, I'm consumed by love from head to foot. That's what the original lyric means.
Ich bin von Kopf bis Fuß auf Liebe eingestellt, denn das ist meine Welt und sonst gar nicht.
She's going to go on. She's going to be fine. Whereas he winds up dead in his old classroom, all alone and pathetic. It's a very bleak ending to a very, very sorrowful story. But, of course, in real life, it had a much happier ending because Dietrich and von Sternberg would go to Hollywood and continue this exact type of filmmaking with this kind of focus on the sexual side of the female and the danger that a man would be in if he's seduced by her charms, much like show business itself. Now remember, the show business that we see in this movie is a very scuzzy showbiz. It's the showbiz of torn up bars. It's the showbiz of low expectations. And when Rot comes back at the end, he is reduced to that most degraded of all characters, the clown. And he finds that the townspeople are all coming in there to look at his humiliation. And indeed, it is a humiliation. So what a great nightmare. Show business is seen as the great evil. And sex, by contrast, through Lola Lola, is seen as the agency through which show business brings good people down. The second movie we're going to look at is The Pirate, directed by Vincente Minnelli and starring Judy Garland and Gene Kelly, made at the height of the studio system and perhaps at the last golden flowering that it had before it completely descended into the chaos of the Paramount decision and the coming of television. The Pirate deals with the story of Manuela. Manuela is a girl who lives in a small sea town but who dreams of going to a port city. And she also dreams of somehow or another meeting the pirate, Makoko.
Where are you now? What seas do you traverse? Is it sunrise or sunset where you are?
A dashing romantic figure, somebody that she's heard nothing but legends and dreams of. Manuela very much lives in her world of fantasy. And Makoko is the representation of everything that this small town does not allow. So she finally convinces her aunt to take her to Port Sebastian before she's doomed to marry the local mayor, who's this kind of fat fuddy-duddy played by Walter Schlezak. And of course, she runs into Seraphin, who is a circus performer. Now, Seraphin hears that she is interested in Makoko, so he decides to pretend that he is in fact the pirate. And one night he is able to tempt Manuela to come and see his show. And in the process of doing the show, she ends up losing her inhibitions because of a hypnotic device that he uses. And he sees exactly how caught up she is in this illusion of the pirate. And that makes him decide more than ever that Makoko he will be. And this puts him in danger because unbeknownst to anyone, the sheriff of the town, the mayor of the town, the man that Manuela is to marry is in fact that pirate gone to seed. And the Gene Kelly character recognizes this.
I'll have you mercilessly flogged. Get out! You and your scurvy troop of actors!
And stupidly puts himself in danger all for love by trying to convince Walter Schlezak that as long as he goes along with it, he will pretend to indeed be the pirate, and this in fact almost causes him his life. At the very end, the real pirate is revealed because Manuela sings a song, Love of My Life, when the Gene Kelly character looks like he's about to be hanged for being this notorious pilot. And he is so consumed by his own lust, by his own desires, much like Imo Jannings, who, if you notice, he kind of looks like, doesn't he? That he confesses who he is.
I've had enough of this! This marionette, strutting around pretending to be the Black Makoko. You think a runt like that could handle a crew of cutthroats? You think real men would risk their necks to serve under him? If you want to worship Makoko, then worship me!
This, in turn, leads to Kelly bringing Manuela on the road with him where they go out as clowns and sing the song Be a Clown. Now, we all know the song Be a Clown is one of Judy Garland and Gene Kelly's most popular numbers. But having seen what happens with clowns in the case of something like the Blue Angel, we're not quite so comfortable, perhaps, with her choice, because she has become everything she said she was afraid would happen if she was going to enter the world of show. Now, MGM at this time was very much promoting that idea that no, going on the road, being somebody who lives your dreams is a good thing. But we have to also think that Seraphin, as we had seen earlier, has a hard time paying his crew. What makes anyone think that even though he and Manuela are a popular team, that this is in any way lasting? There's a dark side to the pirate that makes itself felt, and it is for this reason that I think the movie was not popular when it first came out. Now it has this huge cult following, and in fact, when it's shown to students, they tend to really love it because of its stylization and all those other things that Vincente Minnelli is so well known for. But there is an uncomfortable side to it. Maybe part of it is because Garland's own private life was interfering with her performance. Even though she's great all the way through it, there's still this sense that there's something that's not quite right about her. That during certain moments, she looks like she's not quite focused, that she looks like she's not all there. And so we're seeing in a metaphysical way the dark side of show business being played out right in front of us as everyone else is supposedly happy. Plus, this film was made not only in the immediate post-war period, it was also made when Hollywood was starting to focus more on social problem films. So when you have something like The Best Years of Our Lives or Gentleman's Agreement or the burgeoning of the film noir movement coming out, something that says the world of fantasy is a place you should escape to. For people who'd been through World War II, no. They came back and things weren't all peachy keen and fine. So maybe there was more of a desire for the darker side. So in spite of the fact that The Pirate today is a very, very impressive film, at the time people didn't get it at all. And at one point, the filmmakers even said, hey, we'll give the money back because it was an artistic choice that just didn't work. And how ironic it is that that whole world of fantasy versus reality should, in this case, fall on the side of reality looked at as being preferable.
Oh, you call it a thrill to live in a tent? To be a vagabond, to go hungry? To be chased out of every town? To be looked down on by all decent people?
Manuela!